subscribe now and press the bell icon. Never miss an update.
In this video, we are going to learn how to create login and registration form by using Angular. So here I have a default Angular app, and let's check how this default Angular app can be run. So we will write ng as S is for serve, --o that is for open, and -- port 1234. So after this I'll press enter. So it will take some time for the compilation. Now once the compilation is done, we will see our app in the browser. Now let's go and check the src and folder structure. So here in app.component.html, this is our default HTML. This is what we see when our default component, that is app.component.html, get rendered first when the compilation is done. So as you can see, we are seeing generating browser application bundle and page setup. So now the compilation has been started, and once the compilation is done, we will see our Angular app in the browser at port 1234. So we'll wait for some time here as the compilation is in progress. So basically here what we are going to do, we are going to create a user login form and user registration form, and we will also see that when the user is valid, if the user is valid, we will redirect him to the dashboard, that is home page. But if user is invalid, we will throw him an error that saying that the user is invalid. In the similar way, for registration, we will add the name, we will use the name and email of the user, and we will pass some ID to add into our database. So now for doing all of this, we will also create a fake API using the JSON Server npm package. In app.component.scss there is nothing. In app.component.html there are some default HTML, and here we are going to write our routes in the app.routing.module.ts, and we have one more thing, that is app.component.ts. Now let's go to browser and let's check. As you can see, we have our application open at localhost :1234 port. So this is the default structure of the Angular app. This is the default view. Now we need to create some components for our Angular app. So we will create first the login component by using command nggc ng, G is for generate, then C is for component, and inside the components folder we will create our login component. So this login component, inside this component, we will write login and press enter. So the login components will be created. This login component will contain the HTML file, the CSS file, and the TS file, along with component.speak.ts file. So till the components is completing, we will go to the environment.ts. Here we will define the base URL that will be required for our APIs as an APIs. The environment.prod.ts is for production environment, and environment.ts is for our local environment. So we can assign those values later on in angular.js. So we have our login component created. Now we will create a register component. So I'll just replace login with register and then press enter. And inside components we have components, and the login component has been created inside our components function. Now even in our app.module.ts you can see login component is imported, and in declaration it is already declared. Now we will need one more component, that is a dashboard component. So this dashboard component will be basically our home component. So when the user login is valid, we will redirect him to this dashboard component. Now let's go ahead and check this component.html. Before that we will go to routing module.ts and we will define some routes. So inside routes array we will write, so these are the components that we are going to get it here. So on blank path we will call component login component. So as you can see, it can be auto imported. We will again write a path, and the path will be register, and in register path register route we will call the component which is register component. So as you can see here, we have register component imported automatically. Now in the path of home we will call dashboard component. So yeah, as you can see, component is dashboard component. Now once the component has been imported, we create one more path and let it by default is blank, and it redirect to let's create one more login path, and on blank path it will be redirect to /login and redirect to login, which means when there is no path it will always redirect to login path, and the login component will be loaded. And here path match should be full, that means it should match this path which is on our routes, default routes. Now let's save the changes and go to our as you can see, we have register for register a register component. Let's go to our app.component.html and write router dash outlet in our app.component.html. So this is how we can define the route in Angular. Now let's see in the browser. As you can see, the default is our /login path, and the login component is loaded first, which is saying login works. If I go to the register path, we can see on register route register works, which means the register component is loaded. If I go to the home component, we will see dashboard works as the home component or the dashboard component is loaded. Let's move ahead and go to the login path only. Then inside this we will create our form, and before that we will give a default styles which will be available globally inside style.scss. So we'll make a wrapper having display flex, justify content as center, and align items as center. Now save the changes. Also we will write height as 100 VH. So And one more thing, we will also define our button. So whatever button we will write in our whole application will be having same color and the stylings. So let's give padding 15:10 and then background color as something sky blue. Then margin at the right it will 5 pixel. Then color will be white, and suppose we have font weight as suppose 600. Yeah, now save the changes, and we'll do one more thing. Yeah, we'll add the border as none. We don't want any border here. And also when the button is in disabled state, we want that to be the background color to be gray, and the color is white already, and the opacity as 0.8. So whenever the button is disabled, this styling will be added to our button. Let it be color white. Now let's go to login component, and in login.component.html we will write dot block. No, first of all, we will write dot wrapper, and inside our wrapper we will be having block dot block. So this wrapper and block will be common for our both login and registration form. So I'll create a form tag. Inside form tag we will having input type text, and this input will get one thing, that is name of the user, and another input will get the email as input. So we'll change the placeholder to something else. Now let's create some div and class button. Now let the button be login first, then another button be sign up. So when I click on this sign up button, we should be redirected to the register form. As you can see, we will be having the default thing. Yeah, we have the colors that we have been applied to the sign up and login button, that is the common button in our styles.spss. Now we will define something to our button, that is width. It should be 100 pixel, common to both. And let's write one more thing, that is block. This block will be common everywhere, so it should be 320 pixel, as we are also targeting our mobile view. And let the background be linear gradient 270 degree, blue comma white for giving some kind of preset color, or we can add blue comma red. Yeah, so this is how it will get the preset color. Let height be suppose 350 pixel. Now, and display flex we will add. And one more thing, let's check it right now only. As you can see, we have the preset color with this width 320 pixel. Now let's go to login.component.html, and inside login.component.css we will write block, and suppose the form, and then our input. So I'll give some classes to our input. So the class is inp. We'll again copy paste this, and let's change placeholder to enter email, and the class will be inp, common to both. Now let's go to our what we can say, login.component.css, and here just add these classes, that is input, and we will add some more details to it. So block having display, or we can say justify content center, because we have already added display flex and align item center. So on refresh, as you can see, it is aligned to the center. Now inside form we will write display flex and justify content center. So this will just center the thing, and flex direction as column. So now save changes, we will see that the input items are arranged in the column way, and the align item center will center the inputs. Now we have buttons div, so dot buttons dot, inside this also we will write display flex. So as you can see, the changes in our login box. So display flex we will write, and in the form the width should be 80%, and in input like the width be 100% for now, and let's padding be 15 or the 10 pixel first. We'll check for the 10 pixel, or 5 pixel, then 10 pixel. And let one more thing to add is, let's see first. So let's add margin, and the margin should be 5 or 10 pixel for now. Now save the changes, we can see the effect of margin. It's common to everywhere. Now we'll make the padding as 10 and 15 pixel, so our input box will look little bigger. Now let's check one more thing, and let in button this should be justify content as space between. So now it will be like one at the extreme right, and one button will be at extreme left. So let's add one more thing, that is width 100%. Now save changes, you can see one is at extreme right and one is at extreme left. Now we will try to do the proper alignment of all this thing. Before that, let's add h2 tag, which is saying login. So as you can see, login is there. We will add up some classes to this login also, and this h2 tag also. So inside our login.component.scs, let's write h2 having color as white, and then font family as sans serif, and so we need to add anything. So we'll add font weight as 600. So now on save the changes, we will see a different login as we have defined. Now we want this input to be properly aligned, so we'll do the inspect and check how we can align this to our buttons. So it's taking more width than the earlier. So this much how we want our input to be extended as per the width perspective. So now let's go to the block and check. So this is the block of this, having login h2 input tag and all. So what we will do, we will change the padding first, or it's not working. Let's try one other thing. Let's change the width to 80% or 85%. Maybe 90% will be more. So 85% is perfect. So let's go and change the width to 85% of the input. So on refresh, as you can see, the input elements and the buttons are aligned in the same way. We can see for mobile view. There's a glitch. So yeah, in the mobile view, as you can see, we have proper login form in the mobile view also without taking any UI stuff. Now this is our login page. Let's go to some more details, and let's go to login.app.module.ts. Here in the form we will be using reactive forms for login and register form. So we'll call reactive forms module, the module that is for reactive forms in the form module. So this module will be imported automatically in our project when we write, as you can see here, reactive forms module and forms module. Now let's check one more thing and go to login.component.ts, and yeah, here we will create a constructor private fb form builder. Now the form builder will be added automatically or imported automatically from Angular/forms. Now we will write login form group. Login equals to form group. So yeah, just replace that colon, or we can define in to login. So login in equals to form group, and login submit as a new function. So login submit is the new function, and inside login submit we will write data of type any. This login submit will require one data of type any. And one more thing that we are going to do is, so let's check, or we can say, let's do one more thing. This dot login equals to, no, not name directly. I'll just add one more thing. I was about to add this, this is how we add the names in form group. So we will add the form group first. This is how we do the validators and call the validators, but we don't require this for now, because inside this all we need to write inside form builder. So this dot login equals to this dot fb dot group, then the curly braces we will write name and blank comma validators dot required, which means this field is required, comma email, and this email will be composition of two parameters, that is validators dot compose or required directly. First of all, we will check for required only, and yeah, let's go to app login.component.html and declare form group as login, and let's add form control name to input type text for enter name. So the form control name will be name, and let's go to the input type text placeholder as enter email. So form control name will be email, and let's go to the button ng-click. So pass the function that we have created, that is login submit function, and this function will be accepting one parameter, that is login dot value. So this login dot value is the form group that we have written, and we will make our button disabled when this form, that is the login form, is invalid. So disabled equals to login dot what we can say, invalid, yeah, directly invalid. So as you can see, the button is disabled, which means the form is invalid initially. Now if I write or try to add something in our browser, or let's go to the login.component.ts, and here we will console.log this data first. So whatever the input I'll write in that input boxes, we can see inside our console on press of submit button, or sorry, login button. So let's write one more thing. Let's first open the console by going to the inspect. Let's open the console and let's try to add some values here. So suppose it is Nadeem, and enter the email as Shah. So here we have not restricted to the email only, it is just text. So as you can see, we have an object having name as Nadeem and email as Shah. So now let's make the email validate properly. So validators.compose in square brackets validators dot required and comma validators dot email. So this will validate whether the email entered is correct or valid or not. If it is valid, then good, and if it's invalid, the button will not, like the disabled button login will not be enabled unless and until this form inputs are valid. So now let's go ahead and check some more things. So let's go to what we can say. Yeah, go to sign up. On click of that sign up button, which should be redirected to the register page, that is the sign up page with the form entry with the route register. So let's private router is colon routers. So now this router navigate, we will write navigate, and this will navigate to our register colon register. Now once our register writing is done, we on save the changes and compilation, we can see one thing in our browser. Let's first of all add the event. Go to sign up to the sign up button, and on refresh we can see in the browser that when I click on the sign up, it says register work, which means the sign up or the register component is loaded properly. So now let's go to style.scss, and here what we will do, we will add the cursor pointer. So whenever the user may go to the login or can submit sign up button, we should see a hand cursor over there inside our login page. Now let's add one more button, that is disabled, and for this disabled button, whenever the cursor is there on the disabled button, it should say not allowed, which means the button cannot be clicked. So as you can see, it is logged kind of sign that we are able to see, and I cannot right click on this login button, and the sign up button is okay. So let's try to add some more data. John @gmail.com. So on click of login, we should do something. So first of all, we are getting this object which is having name as jobs, and we are having email as john@gmail.com. Now let's go ahead and click on the register component, and this register component, the HTML will be same as our login component. So yeah, let's try to add that. First let's go to the home.login.component.html and simply copy paste this whole login block in our register block. We will change just some of the properties of this register. for the register block component. So let's paste it here and let's change it to login to sign up or register all things in caps. And let's do one more thing. Here, as you can see, there is a login button. We will replace it with sign up button. And let's check, replace this sign up button to login button and change the function to register submit instead of login submit, and go to login instead of go to sign up. So let's go to register.component.ts, and here we will define the same things which we have already defined in our login component form. So the form group will be register. So let's write register equals to or colon. First of all, we will write the constructor first. Private fb form builder. Yeah. So now let's private router, because we will be needing router to navigate from this register form to login form. So let's write register form register equals to form group. Yeah. And in on it we will write this dot register equals to this dot fb dot group, and inside this group we will write name as colon and square brackets, then the blank, or we can say validator. Register should be of type any first. So inside register component, let name be null comma validator dot required, and same for email, it should be blank comma validator dot require dot compose, like we already composed in our login form. Like now compose, and inside this validator dot required and validator dot email. So this will like validate the email that you have entered is valid or not. Now let's move ahead and write a function that is register submit, and on this register submit we will get the data passed by the form input element. We'll need to write one more function, that is go to login. So this dot router dot navigate, and we will add the URL inside the square brackets as login. So now, as you can see, inside register submit we should have data of type any, and let's console.log data. See the changes. Let's go to register.component.html, and let's change this register submit, and the form group should be register.value and register.invalid, the disabled one, because it uses the form group value to check whether the form is valid or not. Let's click on sign up. As we can see, some CSS details is missing in our register form. So we'll go to login.component.html first, and let's try to go to login.component.css and copy this whole block, whatever we have written inside register.component.scs. Now save changes. As you can see, we have simply copied this login component SCSS inside register component with the SCSS. We should be getting the proper value or the proper design that we need. As you can see, we got the proper design. When I click on login, it goes to login component. When I click on sign up, it goes to register component, that is the sign up component. Now let's try to add some dummy values in our register form. So let it be like what we can say, let it be so here we have two buttons, sign up and login. So unless and until this form is validated properly, we can't use the sign up button. So as you can see on the valid email, it's getting enabled. On click of sign up, we should have data in our console as email as nscode@gmail.com and name as NSCODE. Now let's go to register and let's go to this Visual Studio Code, and here we will be doing something. So let's try to close this first. So here we will write a JSON server that will be the fake API that we are going to use, and this is useful for our operations to do by using login and sign up form. So basically I'll try to add it here, but what I found that we should create another folder for that. So I'll write inside the E folder, let's write server. Here the folder name, let's open that in the Visual Studio Code. So here write code dot, and the code dot, as you can see we have another project kind of thing. Inside the server we will open the terminal first, and inside this terminal we will write npm init. So this will basically initialize a package.json file inside our this folder structure on npm init. It will ask some basic questions. Simply press enter, and yes. Now as you can see we have one file that is package.json. Now whenever the dependencies get added, it will be inside this package.json only. We will need JSON server for this to create a fake API. So we will write npm I is for install, and JSON server. So this will take some little more time to install in our browser, in our application. So once this JSON server get installed in our application to create the fake API, we will be able to see the node modules inside it. So as you can see, the node modules folders has been created automatically, and once this JSON server is added to our folder, we will see inside our package.json as dependencies equals to, as the dependency is having JSON server as the value. And one more thing, once this is done, we will take it here only in our package.json, whether it is installed correctly or not. So it will take some time. Let's wait for some more time because this installation is almost completed. So inside package.json you can see inside dependencies we have JSON server latest version. So now let's create a file that is db.json. So this is kind of our data file. So here we will write a JSON, and inside the user array we should be having an array with some values of key value pair of name as suppose it's on, and email as let it be john@email.com. And let's add one ID, that is one. I'll simply copy paste this object multiple times. So for now we are just doing it for 3 times. And let's try to change the ID first. Let ID with 2, ID with 3, and then let's change the email of John to Chris, and then John to Evans. And let's try to change the name also. So let it be Evans and let it be Morphism. So it will be named Chris. So if in order to write this start this JSON server, we will write JSON server -- watch db.json. Press enter. So this is this has created a localhost 3000/user as our link. So when I press enter, and this will be a get bug. So as you can see, we have a JSON format inside our array as the data on hit of this URL, that is localhost/user. So this is our base URL that we'll be using in our Angular application. Now let's go to what we can say, our VS Code or Angular app. Inside environment, we will paste this environment URL, that is our base URL. So in environment.ts, we will create a variable that is base URL as that variable. As that we can say the URL that we have used or that we have created by using fake API JSON server. So this will be available all over our project. Now let's go to app.module.ts, and here we will be needing HTTP client module. So for that we will write HTTP client module, as we are not getting it from here. So we will try to directly import it from Angular. So import curly braces from @angular/common/http, and here inside the curly braces in import, we will import HTTP client module. We'll simply copy paste this HTTP client module and paste it on imports, inside the imports. So as you can see, we have added this in the module. So now let's do one thing. We will create a service. So it is NTGSS is for service, and the name of that service is common, because this service will act as a common to all of the components. So here, as you can see, the common service has been created. Inside the service, we will need some more things. So let's import first the environment, because we will need the base URL. And yeah, as you can see, it already took its path to the environment. We will create base URL equals to any. So this will be environment.base URL. This will give you the base URL value in the base URL variable. So we'll add constructor, inside constructor as private HTTP, and it should be HTTP client. So as you can see, the HTTP client has already been added in our imports. Now let's go ahead and we will write one function, that is get user, and this function will return some value. So this return equals to this dot, what we can say, this dot http dot get, and what we will get this URL, which is our this dot base URL. So now let's go ahead and move to our login.component.html or CSS. So login.component.ts. So with the lifecycle hook, as everybody of us know that ng after constructor ng on it get called. So we will simply first use the dependency injection of common serve as common to call the common service. So as you can see, private com serve equals to common service, and the common service with its path has already been installed, like imported in our login.component.ts. And on it we will write this dot common serve dot get user is the function dot subscribe, and subscribe of any data any of type any, and let's write console.log. We will write console.log this data. So now on save the changes, this user will be called, and we will subscribe this, and inside the data we will get the values of the user objects. So let's go to the login component. So first of all we will write login, and here as you can see we have three items, that is the array items having name as John, name as Chris, and name as Evans, and the same email ID that we do have in our fake API JSON server. Now let's move ahead, and here what we will do, we will on submit of login submit, we will check whether the data that user has passed is already there. If it is there, we will first of all we will create a variable that is users of type any, and let it initialize with an array. So this should be this dot user equals to data. So whatever data that is coming by calling get user API, so it will all be stored in this dot users. So now in the login submit function we will write some basic logic. So let's try to check with what we can see. If this data dot name is triple equals to, so suppose if this data dot name, which means the data dot name is there, this dot users for each, here we are using for each loop around throughout the users array, and let's replace element with item. So it is item now, and let's do one more thing, that is if there is item of type any, if this item dot name is triple equals to data dot name and item dot email is triple equals to data dot email. Now on see if the user and the data is same as the list we have, then we will write console.log user is valid, and if it is not, we can say in else block we will say that console.log user is invalid. Now save the changes and let's check and try. So I'll write John, which we have already added, and something sss@gmail.com. On login we can see user is invalid because the user is not present in our db.json. And on John, let's try John gmail.com and press or click on login. So as you can see here, we have user is valid, which means the user that we have added is valid. Now let's move ahead and try to replace this with some common code or simple code. So when the user is valid, we will do local storage dot set item is logged in, comma, true. So the basic need of this local storage is to set the key token that is present in Angular. So let's local storage dot set item is logged in as true, and this dot router dot navigate, so it should navigate when the login is successful or the user is valid. It should navigate to the home route, that is for dashboard route. The dashboard command should get loaded. Let's try to change login with a valid user. So it should be John @gmail.com. Click on login. As you can see, we have been redirected to our dashboard component with /home in the URL or the route which we have already defined. Now inside our applications and local storage, you should be able to see is login equals to true. That is what we have added here, and we can check if there is an else. So local storage dot clear, this will clear out the local storage when the user is invalid. So when the user is invalid, this is logged in from the application will be removed. So let's try to write in invalid user and press on login icon. We should be able to see that in our console or that the application local storage has been removed. And let's try to add with the valid user as John, and on click we should be going to dashboard works, which means the login, which means the home route. So let's go to the home route. So as you can see, we are able to go to the home route without even login. So this is not what we required. We should be having we should be able to make the user only enter the dashboard when he is a valid user. So for that we will use auth guard. So we will write ngg and g for generate, and that is guard, that should be auth guard, and press enter, and here we will select can activate. So this will create a authguard.ps file here, and let's go to authguard.ps, and here this is the basic syntax wording that has been already written. So we will just write some basic code to check if the user is logged in or the user is logged in, which means if the user is valid, we will have is logged in our local storage. If the local storage is not null, then if the user storage is not get item is logged in is not true, then we will redirect the user to the login, else we will allow the user to go to the home URL, that is the dashboard component. So if local storage dot get item is logged in triple equals to true, or we can add one more colon or braces here, and let's add not, and inside if condition we will write router. So before router we need to create a constructor here inside this class. So constructor, inside constructor we will write private colon router colon router, that is the capital router, and we will go here inside a this.router.navigate. We will navigate the user when he enters wrong values or wrong credentials to login, and if he if the user enters a proper value or the specific value, then we should make it to the dashboard component. So let's try to go to app.routing.module.ts, and dashboard component we will write can activate, and it should be having inside an array as auth bug. So now save the changes. Now inside the app local storage we can see nothing. Let's go to the console and try to go to home. So here without logging we are not able to go to home as we were able to do it earlier. In order to go to the home, that is the dashboard component, we should be logged. We should be having the login. We'll write John and john@gmail.com and click. Nothing is happening. There should be some mistake that I have done. Let's go to register, and we will do write john@gmail.com. Press login. Sorry, nothing is happening because I might have misspelled this login one. Let's try to add some toaster. So in Angular we have toaster that shows kind of a warning or the success toast whenever the condition fulfills or you get an array or the error. So this is the package JSON. We will enter this in our application. Yeah, so npm my toaster. So this will install toaster in our application. That is the login form. So when the login form is valid, so the credential of the user is valid, we should be able to see the user as valid message. When the user is invalid, we should be able to see the user is invalid. So now let's go ahead and let's try to wait until this npm package gets installed. So now let's go ahead and inside this app.routing.module.ts, let's go to what we can say. Let's go to common service, and here we will create one service that is for add user. So this API function will add the user to our big API JSON server data. So it's API of data in API. So let's return something that is this .http.post, and this should be posted to our base URL, this.base URL, comma data that we want to pass to our base URL. So let's try and check. First of all, let's try with the register component, and here we will also write private.common serve as common service. So here we are calling the common service. Now inside this, what we will say as So inside this register comment, we will write some code, that is if data or let data equals to or data to pass, we will create an object first. Data to pass name equals to data dot name, and then let email equals to data dot email, and let's create one variable as for id, that is id I guess, and let it make the value as 4. So id of type any having initial value as 4. Let's scroll down again and let it be id as 4, or we can directly add this dot id plus plus. Now what we will do is we will write this dot common serve dot add user. Inside add user we will pass this data to pass component object dot subscribe data of type any, and let console dot log data. Here we have console.log data, so whenever we add a user from the register form, it should be added to our data, that is JSON data by which we have created using this the abc and abc@gmail.com, and we will press the sign up. So as you can see, this is completed as name abc, email as abc@gmail.com with id equals to 4. So if I refresh this get call, so as you can see we have had id 4, name as human, email as this, and let's go to login and try to log in by using our new credentials to abc and abc@gmail.com and click on login. So as you can see we are still redirecting to the dashboard component, that is the home component on the home path, which means our login details are correct. Let's go to dashboard.component.html, and here we will simply write some basic stuffs. So wrapper dot wrapper, and this will create a div with wrapper. Inside this wrapper we'll create a ULLI, it is unordered list, and let it be ng for making impression or continuously walking walking the allies based on this data what we got. So let's user list of type any should be an array, and inside the dashboard.ts, and let's private route let private common service common service, and we will write inside the environment, that is by default function this dot common service dot get user. So this on subscribe of that get user we will get some data of type any, and let this dot user list should be equals to data. Now let's go to dashboard.component.html, and first of all let's go to dashboard.component.html. I will simply copy this user list and let's paste it in place of items, and here we will write items dot name, and let it be and email or having email, we can write having email. So again the double curly braces item dot email. Okay, Now let's move ahead and add our item dot id. So this will show us the id also of our objects. So when I save the changes and refresh, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4 as IDs and data as now John having email john@gmail.com and so on. Let's try to do some more things over here in dashboard.component.ts. Let's create logout button, and this logout button should be doing clearing the local storage. So local storage.clear will clear this data in our local storage when I clicked on logout. So let's private.router.navigate. So when I click on logout, we should be redirected to the login page. So we are creating router for that purpose. So inside constructor we have called router, and this router.navigate. And it should be login. Now save the changes and go to the login dashboard.component.html, and here I will create a button, and this button will be logout. Let's write MVP, just write the function logout, save the changes, and let's go to the browser. We will be seeing our button is present here. When I click on this logout, we will be redirected to the login, as you can see, and the local storage will also be get cleared with press of this login. Now let's go to dashboard.component.html, and here we will write class to this button. Oh, sorry, I just misspelled or what. Yeah, so let's class and some space equals to button, or we can add logout button. Yeah, because it is logout button. And also, instead of writing for this wrapper, we will change this wrapper name class to dash wrapper for now. And yeah, so go to component.scss of dashboard. So dash wrapper, inside having that we have ul then li, and also we have one more thing, that is our logout button. So let's do this, write a dot logout button. So this is like having margin as 10 pixels, and let lib of border 1 pixel, solid gray, and let one more thing, let adding the of 10 pixels. So and the margin is of 5 pixels. So on save the changes, we should be able to see more things. Let's write display flex and flex direction as column here. So flex direction as column. So when I click or login to our application by using abc and then abc@gmail.com, and when I click on this login button, we should be able to see some more thing. Oh, suppose like I guess I have like not saved this HTML. So let's save the HTML and see the changes here. As you can see, we have list with the logout button. Below that, press on the logout and register. Let's try register XYZ and XYZ. So as the ID is common for both of them, we should be getting error for now. As you can see, we have this internal error. So let's clear the console, click on the login. This is how like a basic login and sign up form can be created. We will add one more thing to our application. So let's go to app.component.ts, or